Hello there and welcome. Yes, we are Geeks Assembled and we have assembled here today and we're off to the Twilight Zone. Yes, we're having a look at the Twilight Zone and Nightmare at 20,000 feet. So let's see what Alex has to say about this episode of the Twilight Zone. Go ahead, Alex.
Anyway, I don't know why that's doing that. Oh, well.
You're in the Twilight Zone, Alex. Anything can happen.
Yeah, really. Yes, this was an episode that I've always heard about. Like I said, I don't know why I'm in the red lens flare here. Maybe it's Star Trek. So anyway, this is one that I've heard of, and I finally got to see it about 6 years ago, and it's very interesting. And Shatner sort of plays it down. There's a couple of scenes where you see a little bit of Captain Kirk in there. But it's very interesting, the paranoia, the way they set it up. Twilight Zone was always good at setting up paranoia and trying to have as many natural responses as you could, given the situation. That's one of the reasons why I liked it, was because you didn't know if you were being fooled, if the character was being fooled. You didn't know if the people around them were being fooled. So it was always interesting to watch. But as far as the episode itself goes, I thought it was very well done, very well scripted, and it was refreshing to see Shatner in a situation where he wasn't in control of everything. So I'd have to say, while it's not my favorite Twilight Zone episode, that one is with Martin Landau from Mission Impossible. I would say that it's definitely in the top 15. So I'd say I'd give it about 8.5.
An 8.5. Thank you, Alex. Now let's jump over to Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I thought this episode was pretty interesting. With William Shatner having a mental breakdown and how he thought that creature out there was a gremlin, looked more like Bigfoot up there. But yeah, that was an interesting episode. Especially just his poor wife has to put up with him. But yeah, seeing how he was going all crazy, seeing that creature trying to open up the thing on the plane, and how he's just stealing the guy's gun and all that other stuff was going on. Then how he pulled the level thing. Well, it took him out of the plane, but going after the Gremlin or whatever it is. It looks more like Bigfoot. But yeah, that was interesting right there. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
What'd you give it out of 10?
I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10. Thank you, Jason. Now let's see what Kevin has to say about Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
So this is my first episode that I ever saw of Twilight Zone. I knew, the theme and, sci-fi. It was funny when I watched this episode a half hour ago. My only, I was like looking at the actor like I knew him somewhere from, and then I searched it during the episode. I was like, oh, hey, it's William Shatner. Or the old Star Trek. That's cool. Yeah, it was very creepy, it was like almost Freddy Krueger in your nightmares. Something like, what was his name? What's the creator of the Freddy Krueger? Wes Craven, probably, right? Yeah, so yeah, he probably took that as an inspiration and, make it his with claws and... So yeah, it was very cool that he only could see the creature and no one else could. But then at the end, he was getting the gun, he was all getting a mentally breakdown, and almost flew out of the plane. But then, of course, at the end, it was all real. He saw the creature and no one did, but it really happened. So yeah, that was very cool. That they just showed the planes, what was destroyed. It was real what the Gremlin did. So yeah, that was very cool. So I'm going to give it 10 out of 10.
A 10. Thank you, Kevin. I was about to call you Connor then. Let's go over to Connor.
No, I was Connor. Not even once.
Go ahead, Connor.
This is the first Twilight Zone episode I've ever seen, and I will definitely be watching more after this because I thought this was mightily impressive. There's other characters in it, but I count this as a two-hander between William Shatner's character Bob Wilson and Christine White as Julia Wilson. I thought that this was, being that it's two people leading a half-hour episode in one location, it's underrated how much of a task that is to perfect, because it's you can't really do much. It's you're restricted, and to be sat in a seat for half an hour pretty much. I thought that William Shatner and Christine White did amazing. As Alex was alluding to, you think at first that the character is the one that's not being that's it obviously, as was said in the episode itself, that he's come out of a mental hospital sort of thing. So you think it's him that's being he's acting up again, but then you start to see that actually it's the mutant itself, or the Gremlin as it's referred to, is actually there, as is revealed at the end of the episode when you see the damage to the plane. So it's a really good sort of twisty, turny, psychological thriller that you think is one thing at one point and then it's a completely different thing at the other. So I thought, as a first impression of the Twilight Zone, this was absolutely amazing. So I think I'll definitely have to give this one a 10 out of 10. It's a wonderful piece of two-hander TV, I thought. So yeah, 10 out of 10.
Another 10. Thank you, Connor. Now let's jump over to Germany to Beef Dad. Go ahead, Beef Dad.
Well, it's a brilliant story. It was written by Richard Matheson. I think published 2 years before they actually made this episode. I remember watching all the episodes of the Twilight Zone when I was a child. Even the ones that were so scary, I hid behind the settee. This one and the library one hold very special places in my heart. My mother loved this episode, and she actually did promise me that one day she would make me a gremlin like that. She never got round to it though, which was a bit sad. I would have loved a gremlin like that. Brilliantly played by Nick Cravat. The moment where he prized off the housing, excellent. I loved it. And you thought, oh my God, it's all going to go. And of course it did, because Shatner threw the door open and shot it. It was really tense. I remember the tension in the house was palpable when we were watching this. The interplay between him and his wife, brilliant, and as Connor said, they carried it beautifully. And when you consider the limited space they were working in, that is not easy to do, because there was hardly any getting up or moving around for either of them. Most of it, as you say, was done seated, and that is not an easy thing to do. As to the ending, the ending is quite magic when he's taken away in the ambulance and you get the shot
of the wing and the engine housing pulled up. Excellent. Yeah, for me, because of the memories it evokes, and for the superb performances, it gets a 10.
Thank you, Beef Dad. Our third 10. Now let's see what Susan has to say. Let's go over to Susan.
Hello. I would like to tell you that this gremlin was not real. The gremlin was not real because if the gremlin had pulled up the housing on the wing, the wing would have dropped because that would have ruined the aerodynamics of the plane. And there are wing walkers that are tied on with ropes and pulleys and chains and things. Well, not chains because they'd be too heavy, but ropes and pulleys to hold them to the wing of a plane. So no gremlin is going to be able to stand on a plane and rip open an engine housing. So I mean, even though it looked like the engine housing was ripped open at the end, there's no way that was real. I mean, it obviously had affected us as watchers because the plane would have it would have ruined the aerodynamics. The pilots would have been able to tell that there was some creature with fur and scary face out on the wing of the plane, because it would have dragged the wing down. I'm sure of this. I mean, all science would assume that this man is crazy and that we have become crazy just by watching this thing. It would have pulled the wing down. It would have ruined the aerodynamics and it would have probably deterred, like pulled back on the thrust. Like 1 minute they're traveling at 20,000 feet going 350 nautical miles per hour, and then the gremlin's there and it would have retarded the speed, maybe 100 miles an hour. I'm not saying that we're all crazy, but
it's sci-fi. Sorry,
I'm saying that we're all crazy because it would have. This is all done tongue in cheek, of course, Kevin. I just wanted to,
get the science out.
That's the science of the thing, is that it's like this gremlin was defying science, and it was so cool and so scary. And William Shatner, brilliant performance. Yeah, like Beef Dad was saying, and everybody has said up to this point. And like Alex was saying, who is being messed with? I think we all were. I think we're all affected by this show. I really do. It's like it changed us by watching it and being part of it. It scared us. It scared me. Literally, it scared me. So I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Another 10. Thank you, Susan. Now talking about scary things, it's Lee's turn. Go ahead, Lee.
Oh, sorry. Right. Yes, Twilight Zone. Nightmare at 20,000 feet. Just want to say this was the one what won our poll, what we put up on our Facebook page. It narrowly won against the library one. Maybe in the future we might visit that one, so we'll keep hold of that one. But this is an ideal episode if nobody's ever seen, and people have said this in the cast, if they've never seen a Twilight Zone episode, ideal episode to start with is this one, really. Shatner acting in this it's out of this world, really. I mean, in the past, his acting has been knocked. They always say, "Oh, yeah, Shatner's wooden acting and that," but this one, I can't fault his acting in this. You feel it, you feel the paranoia, and you either you feel for him, or you're thinking, is he going mad, or is it actually happening? You're in two minds whether to do this, and I totally agree with what Connor said. This is like a two-man show. This, him and the wife. brilliant acting, both of them. Okay, the Gremlin. It does look like a Bungle the Bear costume, but back then in 1963, this was the technology, the costumes they had. I can't fault that. It's a thing of the past. That's what it's there, and you can't do anything about it. It's for me. It's the atmosphere. It's the paranoia what makes this one, and also, if everybody watches any other episode of the Twilight Zone, I do love the intros and the outros by Mr. Rod Serling, who created the show. The guy in the suit and tie who introduces the show and does at the end of it, that's Mr. Rod Serling, who, otherwise people may know he sort of created the Planet of the Apes movie back in the 60s, stuff like that. But I can't fault this one. It's a classic. The whole series is a classic. 5 full seasons of Twilight Zone in the original format back in the 60s. This one is one of the best, and I'm giving it a 10.
A 10, another 10. Thank you, Lee. I think that's our 5th 10 now. I hope you're keeping count, Craig. I hope you're keeping count. And, what do I think? Well, I've never seen the black and white Twilight Zone. I have seen parts of the, is it the 90s series, the more modern one? Was it 90s or something? I've seen parts of that, but I've never seen a full episode. So this was my full episode, and this was the first time I've seen the original series. And the intro I thought was really good. The intro is really intriguing. Then you've got the narration of it. I thought it was really good. Shatner did a great job. He really did. I thought it was a monkey on the wing at first until its face came close to the window, and then you could see it wasn't a monkey then, but it was a gremlin, wasn't it, or something? So I thought that was good. I thought it actually, the effects were quite good for the time. The effects were quite good, I thought. But it was a really contained story. Like you say, it was just those two characters. It was really contained. There wasn't anybody really else. It was the pilot and and one of the air stewardess, and that was it. And I thought at the end, I thought he was dead. I thought Shatner's character was dead. I thought he was being wheeled off because he didn't move or anything. They were just taking him out of the plane, and it's only when he spoke, when they were putting him into the ambulance thing or whatever it was, that he spoke. But going back to when he opened the door, I thought the plane would crash. I thought he'd open the door and the plane would go down because of the aerodynamics would change, because it would just take the plane down. Did anybody else think that? Yeah,
but it's a TV show. They wouldn't have done it like.
You have to suspend disbelief. That's what it's good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about the gremlin being on the wing and stuff. Is that was just the physics was impossible, but it was, and people would have been sucked out and everything else would have been sucked out.
Yeah. What you've got to remember is you entered the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, that's true. And for this episode, I'd give it a 9. I enjoyed it, and it was only 24 minutes as well. So it's a really quick watch. It's a really quick watch, and it's a good episode. Yeah, I'll give it a 9. So I'm going to throw the floor open to whoever wants to speak. There's always one. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. We've got to realise it's also back in the day before health and safety was someone on a plane with a gun. That crossed my mind when I rewatched it today.
Wouldn't be allowed now, would it?
No. But also, you've got to realise as well, the very ending, there was wheeling him back. There was putting him back in the asylum. So you got to feel sorry for Mr. Bob Wilson. He's proved himself right by shooting the gremlin, but they were shoving him back in the loony bin, which it makes you think.
I have to add something, actually. That isn't it a coincidence that Wilson is used a lot, because in the British Empire which we did last week, there was also another character called Wilson. Now we have another one in the Twilight Zone. There's a lot of Wilsons around, Lee.
Yeah, well, my family get around a bit, and also it was Bob as well, which that name rings a bell for some other reason.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
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 The flight of Mr. Robert Wilson is ending now. A flight not only from point A to point B, but also from the fear of recurring mental breakdown. Mr. Wilson has that fear no longer, though for the moment he is, as he has said, alone in the universe. Happily, his conviction will not remain isolated for too much longer, for happily tangible manifestation is often left as evidence of trespass, even from so intangible a quarter as the Twilight Zone.
Anyone else have anything to add?
I do have to say that if this was remade today, they probably wouldn't show it because of what's been happening with planes recently. There's a lot of paranoia around going on a plane. And
Yeah.
So if they remade this and made it as good as they can these days with the effects and everything, I doubt they'd show it because it's the censorship on that would. There'd be a few flags going up, I think, on that, so that's a shame. But for the time and when planes, it wasn't as a fearful sort of thing as it is now. This is a really good story. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say.
I have to add that when Shatner went to get the gun, he just threw the matchbox on the floor. He didn't even try to pretend. He just threw it on the floor. I thought, yeah.
This is a bit like a health and safety film on a plane, like what not to do, because there's probably people have referred to. There's probably several instances on this where it could cause any number of deaths on the plane. So I think, this is quite an informative sort of episode, I think.
Yeah, we must
remember, though, at that time, you were allowed to smoke on planes.
But we also must stress to viewers, if you're going on a plane, do not open the emergency door in flight.
Or
It
take
is
it
really
up.
important. We have to make sure that nobody does this, but we don't want to get blamed. Oh, we watch
It's a
this.
TV show.
I just want to say, this is what TV is missing, sorely missing these days, is a good anthology TV series where each week it's a different set of different story. They did it so well back in the day. It can be done now, but why these TV companies aren't doing it, I just don't. I know I've heard that the Tales from the Crypt is returning, but I'm not holding up much hope for that one at the moment because a certain producer's behind it. Shashalam. But we won't go there.
Were you bursting in song then?
You mean him? That's Mr. M. Shamalama. That did the Last Airbender movie and totally screw it.
Mm.
So, so the thing that was really intense about it was I just thought that the physics was really intense, like the whole idea of somebody being on a wing way out there would have pulled the wing down. That was just like I know I'm beating a dead horse, but this is really interesting to me.
Logic is thrown out of the window.
I'm very geeked out by this whole physics of flight thing because of this episode.
It's really affected you, isn't it, Susan?
I do have to add, actually, I thought the black and white of it worked better than it probably would in colour as well, because with all the mist and stuff, you couldn't see the gremlin until the last minute. As Alid said, I actually thought it was a human at first, and that they were going to go down that route, but then I found out it was a monkey, as Alid thought, and then I realised it was a gremlin. So I thought that sort of the mysteriousness of what that creature was on the wing worked well with the black and white, because you couldn't really see it because of the mist and stuff.
Yeah.
So it set an atmosphere that a colour version of this tale probably wouldn't be able to. I thought that would be its favour.
Can I just add something? You know what I would have done? I would have just swapped seats with a woman and let her sit there so then she could see it.
That's such a good thought.
Yeah,
But
just swap seats.
there again, she'd have been asleep for the full episode, and the gremlin would have ripped the wing apart, and the plane would have gone down.
Yeah, but like Susan said, it might not have been there.
Well, this is it.
Okay. Then the other thing is when the door was open in our modern aircraft, the oxygen mask would have dropped from the overhead compartment, and you would have had him putting it on her and her putting it on him, and then we would have been like, you know.
But the gremlin couldn't have been there anyway because it kept on being blown off by the wind, so it would have gone crashing to the ground.
Well, I noticed at one point, was I seeing things, or was the gremlin pirouetting off the plane at one point? Because it looked like it was dancing in midair. I don't know.
To me,
Yeah, like when they spin around with the hands in the air, you know, like ballerina do really fast. That's pirouetting.
my take on
You
this.
didn't know that.
My take on this was the gremlin realised he was being watched, and he was teasing Shatner's character.
All right, now, wasn't this also remade in Twilight Zone, the movie, in 1983? And it was Lithgow.
Yeah, John Lithgow played the character.
Yeah, the funny thing was, John Lithgow played the character in it then, and they both ended up doing an episode of The Third Rock from the Sun together. Which at one point William Shatner said, "Yes, I had a bit of a problem with the plane."
Right.
And John Lithgow turned around and said, "Oh, I know, I've had the same problem."
Right, so it's an in-joke of an in-joke, yeah.
Yeah, it was an in-joke, but an in-joke.
I love those. I love in-jokes. Yeah, because they, I kind of thought it was very familiar. So that was done in color, unless they did it in black and white. So they already redid it. But I think the original is much better. And then, of course, this was another writer used on the Twilight Zone that he has done many versions of a similar story. Richard Matheson, who also was one of the great writers on there. And then I guess they also did it on Saturday Night Live as well.
And wasn't it directed by Donner?
Yeah, is that the same guy that did the 70s and 80s Superman, or was it another person?
I'm not sure, but that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything to add?
I just want to say that this series, 156 episodes in total. That's a hell of a lot, you know. But if you could just pick anyone out and we'd say the same thing, it's just brilliant viewing on any of the episodes. And you can't say that about a lot of TV series. You know, this is up there, and for me, it never drops. It is just one of the best American TV shows ever made.
Yeah. Okay, according to what I see, yes, he did do it as well. He directed this one, he directed The Omen, he directed Superman with Christopher Reeve, and he's 86 years old now.
Yeah, well, everybody gets old. I mean, Kenny.
No, I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
No.
So he's still with us.
Yeah.
And that's not his original. That's not his original name either. But that's the name he decided.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Kenny Baker died today, and he was 83.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's very sad.
Wow, that's so sad.
Yeah, R2-D2 has gone to the great recycling plant in the sky.
Does anybody know how Richard Wilson's doing?
Not so far.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
Anyway,
really-
so no one's got anything else to add on the Twilight Zone then? Nope.
Nope.
Well, on that note, we're all off to Beef Dad's house. Yes. I hope he's getting the drinks ready.
the beer's
Sausages on a stick.
Yeah, sausages on the stick. Get the balloons out. Get the party poppers. We're going to have a party at his house. He doesn't know it yet. Well, he does now. But I would like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching. Tell us what you think about this Twilight Zone episode. And don't forget to like, favourite and subscribe. And as always, stay safe, look after yourself, and we'll see you next time.
All right.